Hello there, World of Tankers. Get your tea bags out, because in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Gsor 1008. This is a Tier 8 premium British tank destroyer on World of Tanks PC, and it's probably the most notorious Tier 8 tank destroyer in PC. Not only is it ridiculous to get your hands on with a fat price tag, but there's a reason behind that. The TVP 5051 in World of Tanks Blitz carries a 4-shell autoloader that, in a matter of 6 seconds from the first shell, is able to dump out 1200 damage. It's a pretty impressive clip, and it's definitely a tank not to be messed with, especially in the hands of a good player. Well, the Gsor in World of Tanks PC carries, no joke, a 4-shell autoloader that deals, I think, 310 or 20 damage a shot. It's also got ridiculous penetration on PC, but obviously Blitz is not PC, and thankfully we have the statistics of what this vehicle is going to be like. Now, I can't guarantee these statistics are what the tank is going to be when it comes into the game, because as we know, Wargaming does test these tanks. The T-77 is already in testing, same for the Type 57, so I do think that the vehicle will probably change a little bit here or there statistically, depending on how Wargaming sees it fit, but for the most part, you can expect this to be a broad idea of how the tank is going to play and its statistics of when it does come into the game eventually. So let's just go into the stats. Now, you can see provisions are on this tank, and as well it's running equipment. Now, it's running supercharge instead of aiming time, so we can pretend the aiming time's a little bit better, but let's first start off with the hit points. It's got 1219. Now, that is with the hit point buff, so yeah, it doesn't have the most hit points, but it is a tank destroyer, so that makes sense. This isn't a medium, and it's not a heavy tank. Armor-wise, it's got 48mm on the turret, 43mm on the side, and 23 on the rear. The hull as well has got 56mm, 32, and 25. So, if we make our way over to Armor Inspector, this is about as much as you're going to be getting bounces on it. Yeah, you're really not getting any. Apart from this really steep upper plate that you might get the occasional auto ricochet on, you can see even when using upwards of 11 degrees of gun depression like it has on PC, you're still not bouncing anything. And this tank doesn't have 11 degrees of gun depression in Blitz. It has 8 degrees, so you're going to be sitting more like this. So, yeah, the upper plate's only 204 at most, and look at the turret. I mean, at most, it's 180. Unless you're in a Tier 7 medium like the Leo that doesn't really have good pen, you load premium and everything is now A penetration, and that's only 194mm of premium pen. So, yeah, I would not say the Gsor's armor is anything great, especially when we take a look at the side armor. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious. Only 50mm, just to put in your mind, any really 122mm cannon, let's say like an IS-3, well, this has 68mm of HE pen, and IS-6 has 61mm, 62 on a KV-4. So really, any 122mm can penetrate the side of this tank with high explosive ammunition, as you can see. That's also the same for the side of the turret. That's also the same for the whole rear of this vehicle, only sitting at 38 and 38. And actually, as we saw in Blitz, it's actually more in the 20s range. So, yeah, this tank does not have a lot of armor. In fact, it doesn't really have any armor. It's less than mediums. It's quite terrible. But that makes sense. It is a tank destroyer, and it's going to have a pretty insane gun, as you're going to notice in just a moment. So let's break into the gun. It's got 2612 damage per minute, which is a very solid number, especially judging that that's when you're only firing AP ammunition. This vehicle also has HESH. You'll notice it deals 440 damage per shot, and it also has 187mm of penetration. Now, that is with calibrated shells on. You can see that right there. So, this is the highest pen you're going to get at 187. It's very similar to a Charioteer, but you got to remember that 187 is plenty to cut through a lot of Tier 8 heavies. You can get through the lower plates, you can cut through the sides of almost all of them, and judging that this tank is a very solid top speed you're going to see in a moment, you shouldn't need to worry too much about repositioning and getting shells into your opponent. So if you have the ability to play this tank against mediums, which I would highly suggest, in a matter of 2.5 seconds from the first shell, you can deal 880 damage. Yeah, that's pretty insane. Even if you're only firing standard ammunition, you still deal 700 damage in 2.5 seconds. That is insane, especially judging that it has 260mm of AP penetration. That's going to be enough to really butter through any Tier 8s you're aiming at, which is nice. I mean, it definitely should have very good standard pen, judging that it has no premium shell. And I do like tanks that have a HESH mechanic, because a lot of times it separates skilled players from not so skilled players. There's people out there that will say, oh, this tank's tank's not good because I can't penetrate my HES shells, but really good players that understand how to use it and aim at weak spots will do fine because they'll get those HES out. So I do think that this vehicle is going to be very, very capable. You got to remember that that DPM is only with firing AP ammunition. So if we had an extra 100 and whatever, it's 700 with a normal clip, and we said it's 880. So if we had an extra 180 damage for every clip you're able to deal, and judging that it's only got a 13-second magazine reload, you're going to be getting out 4 clips. So you can add an extra 500 damage per minute if you're able to penetrate your HES shells. Definitely a very deadly tank. Aiming time of 3.6 seconds. Well, you can see that supercharge is on the equipment, so probably around a 3.4 second aiming time is what you can expect on this vehicle, which sounds okay. I don't know the on-movement dispersion values, which, as we know, are extremely important on how a tank performs, because if it has really good aiming time and dispersion, but terrible on movement, well, that's not going to help anybody. So the aiming time's good. Its dispersion is okay. 0.335 is definitely nothing insane, but it's good enough that I think it can get the job done, especially if it does have good on-movement dispersion. You might be able to get away running refined gun, and you'll do fine. Talking about gun elevation, it's only got 9 degrees of gun elevation and 8 degrees of gun depression. Now, that's not very flexible. Just to put in comparison, a vehicle like the AMX 1375 has pretty similar gun elevation, but actually worse gun depression. So it'll be nice that you can work a lot of ridge lines with this tank. 8 degrees will be plenty, especially against medium tanks, but I will say the elevation, yeah, that will be a problem on certain areas. If you're below any opponents, you're probably not going to be able to aim up on them, so just keep that in mind when you do come up against these, is if you play it correctly, you might not be able to be shot. Its top speed is 49 kilometers per hour, which, yeah, that's fast. That's really, really fast. 49 forwards and 17 in reverse, which would make it one of the fastest tank destroyers up there next to the WZ-120 GFT. So that's great. It has an average speed of 31, which is okay. Its power to weight is on the lower side of 14.7, so it will definitely take a lot of time to accelerate, especially because you can see improved fuel is being ran on this tank. So yeah, not great on the overall power to weight, but I mean, even going upwards of 40 kilometers per hour is very fast for a tank like this, and once you get it up to speed, I mean, you're easily going to be keeping up with medium tanks, especially judging that you have more damage per minute than them and plenty of gun depression. When we take a look at the weight, 43 tons, it's actually not that light of a vehicle for how little armor it has. Turret traverse rate is atrocious, though, 23 degrees a second. Just to put in comparison, the WZ-113, known as a notoriously slow tank, only has about 20 degrees of turret traverse. So this is going to be very similar to your Hellcat-esque vehicles, where just terrible turret traverse. Hull traverse is okay, 36 degrees a second will be plenty to deal with really any tank. So it'll still go upwards of 50 degrees a second, actually almost 60. So you'll be fine on the traverse speed, but definitely the turret, not going to be great for snapping shells into very mobile opponents. One thing I forgot to mention is the camouflage. It's got 70% while stationary and 51% while moving. That is very similar to a vehicle like the Borsig, meaning that the camouflage on the Gsor is actually really, really impressive. That'll be great for getting snapshots and surprise attacks on your opponents. So that's really all there is about the tank. I thought I'd just do a video on it, letting you guys know that this tank will be coming into the game. I can't really voice an opinion on how I think this tank is going to play yet. What I personally believe is that it seems pretty good right now. I mean, it looks balanced. I would say the armor is a big setback, but the camouflage is a big upside. So, you know, you can get the snaps on opponents before you're detected. I don't know. We'll find out as it is in testing. Right now, I would say it looks very strong, but I don't know about overpowered. We will have to find out. Maybe just make that intro clip 3 seconds. That's all I'd say. But hopefully, all of you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this tank in the comments down below. But other than that, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.